Carlos and the leadership team here at Acme Pharmaceuticals. I'm excited to share with you today the ADP TotalSource solution. 3 weeks ago, when we sat down, I asked you, if we got together a year from today, what would define your success as a company? What do you need to do to get to the next level? And you said, Will, if there's a way we can keep expenses down, overhead low, and really remove a lot of the roadblocks and distractions that right now sit on our path to growth and success, then we're going to get to the next level. Well, today I'm going to share with you how TotalSource is going to help you accomplish those things. So let's get into it. Sound good?
Yes.
Perfect. So today's agenda, we're going to go over an overview of some of the things you shared with me over the last few weeks, some of your top priorities and goals, the value of TotalSource. Well, what does it mean to us as leaders, to our employees, to our organization, our bottom line, those types of things. And then, of course, what are the next steps? How do we get started and get things implemented? So, where do you stand today and what do we know about your company? Some of your top priorities and goals are, number one is to drive top line revenue from $10 to $15 million in the next 2 to 3 years. When you think about the last decade or so, we need to evaluate what we can do today to really get you to the next level. Second is to maximize profits and run as efficiently as possible. That way, you can invest into machinery to get generic drugs out to the marketplace faster and grow your business. You have a lot of great ideas, but they're sort of lost in translation. You have too many roadblocks that not enough clarity to your big ideas that actually make you money. So how do we fix this? And then third is to build a drug development offering to a $3 million business for Acme Pharmaceuticals. If you can do those three things successfully, you're in a great position to really be ahead of your competition, to invest into markets overseas, to grow your business there, to hire international employees, and really be having a leg up on your competition. But here's where we are today, Carlos. You stand at a crossroads, kind of a crossroads of opportunity, and you have a lot of people telling you a lot of different stories. You have a CPA telling you one thing, a legal advisor telling you something else. You have your benefit broker saying, here's what we think you should do. And you stand on a road with a lot of decisions, knowing one of those decisions is the very best decision for my company. Well, how do you know which road to walk down on? Well, here's what I'm going to share with you is why is TotalSource the best road to walk down to get you to the next level? So, to illustrate my point, I'm going to show you a couple things on the board about your company and kind of a big picture here. So what do we know? Well, since 1987, Carlos, you've followed a great path to success that's occurred over time. And really when you think about the last 10 years or so, sure, it's had its ups and downs, but every time you've plateaued, you've been able to think strategically, make decisions and move forward, make decisions strategically and move forward. So we'll call this last 10 years or so. Well, over the last 2 or 3 years, you've seen kind of a steady decline actually in profits where you are today. I'll draw an X here to signify things right now, and then, like I said, last 2 to 3 years. So this gives us the task to evaluate, okay, what are the differences in the marketplace 10 years ago versus today 2 to 3 years ago, because it's not business as usual, and I don't have to tell you that, you know that. Well, what are those things that stand in the way for everybody? So when you think about what pulls down on your efforts to grow, number one is increased costs, specifically around benefits. When you think about needing to invest in the machinery to get generic drugs out to the market faster, and some of your biggest expenses continue to grow, it leaves your bottom line very small. And how can we fix this? Number two is turnover. This is a huge problem when your competitors have deeper pockets than you do, and they can afford better benefits, and you have people jumping ship to go to somebody else. What is that costing you? It's costing you big. We're going to look at what it is in a second. And then finally is overarching compliance. And I'll put here ACR for the Affordable Care Act, or healthcare reform. You have Betty, your office manager, handling a lot. The world is on her shoulders. Even though that's her job, she's so focused on all the things that can cost you if you do them wrong, that she's not focused on some of the progressive HR things that actually motivate employees and get them to the next level. So when we look at the Affordable Care Act, it's funny, I actually have a copy of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act with me. You have to understand what 800 or more some odd pages means. You have to discern what impacts you and what hurts your business. And this is no easy task. So when you look at all of these things, you're trying to measure what's my impact, how does it affect my bottom line. It's very difficult to assess where the damages are done. So let's put some numbers that can help illustrate this. few things I want to talk about. Number one is I talked about increasing costs. Interesting statistics that annual labor cost has risen 2.8% year after year. When you have a $2.5 million payroll that's over $60,000, where's that coming from? We know healthcare is a big piece of that. In fact, expenditures over the last 6 years has risen 40%. What's really scary is that for the Affordable Care Act and what the analysts predict is that these will rise 25 to 50% in the next 12 to 18 months. So think about your second biggest expense behind payroll increasing that much, and taking that expense and how does that affect your bottom line? How are you getting to the next level when you're taking a step backwards financially? We also know that healthcare benefits happen to be the second most important factor in employee loyalty. And of employees who are dissatisfied with their benefits, 62% plan to leave their employer. So think about this. You have 10 employees here. 6 out of the 10 have plans to leave you because your competitors who have more money to invest in a better benefit package are offering them something that you cannot. So they jump ship. All of a sudden, your salespeople, your chemists, your top talent has no productivity. That comes to a halt. Then you have to spend time and money recruiting and revamping these people to replace them. But if they do leave, what is the morale like for those that remain? If they're seeing this happen, are they thinking of the same thing? This is a huge issue. And then lastly, when you try and piecemeal HR together, when you try to stick a Band-Aid over increasing costs to try and stop the bleeding, and it's all separate, you're trying to manage it, you have 32% higher costs than if you linked all of these pieces together. And we know that your HR manager got fired last month. If you try to replace them with a $100,000 price tag on a salary, that's another fixed cost. It doesn't really move the needle. I know these are scary things to think about, and what's interesting is you're really not alone as a business owner. ADP this year produced a white paper study where we basically interviewed clients and non-clients to find out what are top of mind business concerns for folks in the marketplace. And when you look at the top 2 concerns that we found, number 1 is the rising cost of benefits, and number 2 is locating, hiring, and retaining the top talent. So we know the problem is for everybody. The question now is, how can I change the status quo? What are my options? When I think about the road I'm on, what road can I take? Here's the good news. There's a solution in the marketplace today that allows you to get to the next level, and it's called ADP TotalSource. TotalSource is a co-employment relationship between your employees and ADP where we actually invite you, as you know, onto our federal ID number for administrative purposes. When we do that, a lot of things change. It's a complete paradigm shift from how you do business today or even 10 years ago versus how you can do it now to get to the next level. So when we think about trying to break above this glass ceiling of all the things that weigh you down, let's look at what TotalSource brings to the table. Well, number 1, we help manage your risk. We take all the things that surround every employee, all the things that you're liable for, and we actually shift them from your shoulders to ours so that you can focus on what actually makes you money versus what keeps you compliant. Number 2 is our expertise. TotalSource is the world's authority in employment risk, and we become experts to support Betty around all the new things around the Affordable Care Act, compliance, and all of the other pieces that can weigh you down. And then finally, to bring it all together, is a scalable technology and an HR infrastructure. I talked about adding fixed costs. Well, what if you had an option that could grow with you rather than adding money to expenses to fix problems? So you can see the contrast between the two to eliminate the roadblocks and really to get you from today to above this glass ceiling. Any questions on the co-employment relationship that I talked about?
Well, the only thing I'm really concerned with is losing control of my employees, because it seems like my employees become your employees, and that's a concern.
That's one thing we hear a lot, and it's really the biggest misconception about the PEO industry and co-employment. We are simply extending our federal ID number for administrative purposes only, so that we can, from an administrative standpoint, do all the things that we promise, so that we can have the buying power around benefits, so that we can share in all the risk. You are still the worksite employer. You make all the hiring and firing decisions, and when you talk about control, when I show you in 2 seconds some of the great features of TotalSource and what you actually get, you're actually gaining more control on what you can provide your employees. So it's a win-win situation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. So let's look at what this really means. I talked about sharing our Fed ID for buying power. All of a sudden, you're going to offer employees a Fortune 500 level benefit package. Look at all of these benefits. What you currently offer is just a handful: medical, dental, 401k, the basics. But when you have a competitor that's offering vision, life, voluntary benefits, employee assistance program, all the perks, these are the things that you will now be able to offer through TotalSource to attract and retain the top talent and develop them as leaders, because they're getting the very best in benefits. I mentioned the Affordable Care Act. I've shown you this a couple times. There's so many laws you have to try and figure out and track, because the Affordable Care Act is a penalty maze. And you step in this maze, and if you're going about it on your own in the open market without a partner to share in the risk, and you take a wrong turn, penalty. Another wrong turn, fine. We actually show you where those potential fines can be so you avoid them altogether. I'll give you an example really quick. You cannot offer a benefit whose premium is over 9.5% of an employee's annual salary, and when you do, you're in the red. We show you that to avoid it. Also is the full-time equivalent calculator. We know that the shared responsibility provisions hit when there's 50 full-time equivalent employees. Carlos, you're at 45, so you're floating above and below this line. When things may or may not apply to you, it's impossible to track. We actually, since we integrate all the pieces within payroll, can track that for you so that you can eliminate that risk completely. All the employees see while this runs in the background is a great piece of technology where they can see their benefits online, through their smartphone, through a tablet. And in fact, we have an ADP app that I'll show you right now that I actually use, where you can track your pay information, your 401k, your total compensation statement to see what you invest into each of them. They can see it visually every day, and this is what keeps employees connected and engaged. And if you think about your competitors, I doubt they can even offer something like this. And then finally, your TotalSource team. What does this look like? 4 people: HR business partner, payroll specialist, a benefit specialist, a loss control specialist. Give you a quick example of what your HR business partner could do. We produced for you a benchmark report that benchmarked you against the competition. And what we found in one of these pieces is that your workforce demographics are split between different generations of traditionals, baby boomers, Gen X, and Gen Y, and millennials. Each of these demographics is motivated completely differently. So you have an HR business partner that can help you motivate them the way they need to be motivated so that your employees are more productive, and customer-facing folks help you get to the next level, because that represents your company, helps you invest more into capital, helps you get overseas quicker, and it helps you invest into your mission and vision, as you mentioned. You sit on top of this, and they work for you. Carlos, I shared with you numbers if you did it wrong. Well, what if you do it right? World-class companies compared to average companies see 12% higher profits, 18% higher productivity, have 12% more customers. You think about this. An employee over here has 18% more productivity. These are dollar signs. These are people that are more engaged with your customers. They're happy to be at work. You're reducing turnover. When this happens, all of a sudden, you're having 12% more customers with 12% higher profits. These profits allow you to invest in machinery that gets generic drugs to the market faster. And if you're the first company to get generics to the market faster, your customers are buying from you versus the other guy. So it's a snowball effect. You're making more money on top of it just by having these statistics work in your favor. 84% of senior leaders say disengaged employers are one of the biggest threats, but they don't know how to measure it. Here's how you can measure these and move things forward. I can sit up here and tell you how great it is, but what do our clients say? NextMed, a TotalSource client similar to yours, who needed to maximize resources, said ADP TotalSource gave us the HR, benefits, payroll, and risk expertise that positioned us for growth. We simply didn't have enough internal expertise or resources to get to where we wanted to be. They're in the same position as you. This is how you invest in employees to get to the next level. With managed risk, expertise, and scalability, bringing it all together under one piece of great technology. Lastly, what does it really, really mean to you, Carlos? Would you mind reading this?
Investing in our people is our key to success, and we are driven to be the best at doing what matters most to our customers.
Investing in our people is our key to success. TotalSource is how you invest into your people to get those percents of higher profits and productivity so that you can drive top-line revenue from $10 to $15 million, so you can maximize profits to invest into those machineries to get to the next level, and therefore build a drug development offering into a $3 million business for Acme Pharmaceuticals. I'm excited about our partnership to get you to this next level. If there's no other questions, I'd love to take the next step and look at paperwork.
Perfect. Thank you.